So this is my suburban habitat, my Suburbitat, and I'm going to survive here. Nice Tennessee humid heat. Alright, so we're going to start talking about raised beds, grow boxes, and we're going to see what I've done so far out there and what I plan to do in the future. The first thing that I wanted to do, and trying to make a system that's going to be streamlined and easy to work with. I wanted to build boxes that would be portable. And you've seen the backyard out there, very unlevel. So I needed to be able to move them around as I needed to, and also level them quickly. And so my thoughts on this was to build something fairly sturdy. According to Mel Bartholomew, your boxes need to be at least 6 inches deep. So my first thought was to go out and get 2x6s and build 4x4 boxes out of that, which I did. I also bought 2x12s, and when I built the box out of 2x12s, but I actually raised the bottom up to make it 6 inches deep. Now I put plywood on the bottom of these boxes for all the boxes except for one, and I'll explain what I did with that one in a minute. And I drilled holes all around in the bottom for drainage. And the idea was that you know, when the time came, I could move those around without disturbing the soil. And you know, I'm a pretty strong guy, but come to find out, you can't really move those by yourself after they're full of soil, even the little 4x4s, and I don't even think I could do it with help. So to move them around, you're going to have to take the soil out. And the reason I wanted to be able to move them around was, like I said, as I watched the season and I watched where the shade and the sun move to different times of day and different times throughout the season, I wanted to be able to kind of position everything as best I can, and also figuring out what grows best in more sun opposed to what grows best in less sun. Starting off, the first issue that I ran into was when you get your 2x6s, and of course everybody should know that a 2x6 is not actually 2 inches thick by 6 inches wide. So for your depth, you actually lose that much of your depth. And then over time, if you fill it straight to the top, even with the top, it's still going to settle. So I went to 2x8. When I first started doing this project, I wasn't sure if I wanted to put everything on video and set up a channel to do it. And I thought maybe I do. So I thought, well, I'll put the camera out and let it run while I do things, but I didn't really talk a whole lot to the camera. I didn't do close-ups. It just kind of sat there and watched me as I pedaled along. As time goes on, I'm going to go ahead and get a little more involved in the camera work and a little more detail. But the stuff that I've already done in the past, I'll do a lot of edits and in some cases where I can actually go back and maybe record something else or show diagrams or something like that, just to keep the content interesting. That being said, I didn't get a whole lot on building the boxes. I think I got some footage working with one of them, but we'll go out and we'll look at the ones that got built, and I'll talk about what happened, how I put those together.
Emerging markets, what is generally typically their market? Is it generally
250 on Comcast, excuse me, and 150 at Charter and 5.2.
Okay, you are looking at the first box that I built. It's a 2x6 bed, and then I built a frame with 12-inch feet to put it on. Now you'll see what I'm talking about here. You know, that's a 4-foot piece right there, and so is that. And so you don't get a total 4 feet going that way, because you're losing this much of it. And also, you can notice the gap here where the soil is settled. So you're losing, you don't start with a full 6 inches anyways, and then as it sinks you lose it. So that bed over there, I went to 8 inches. I think that's probably a better choice. And as you can see, it's on the plywood, 1/2 inch, and here I used these 3-inch deck screws. Okay, so basically, after I cut the pieces and I knew which ones I want, I took a stub end and just laid it on there. You know, a little piece that maybe got trimmed off another 2x6 or something, and laid it on there so I could get the thickness. Just marked it real quick. Then I just marked 3 little spots, and I would pre-drill those. And when I pre-drill them, I make sure the drill bit is not quite as big around as the screw, because you want it to go in there and you still want those threads to catch, but you don't want it so small that it splits the wood. This is just regular pine, nothing treated, and it will split if you try to run that through there without pre-drilling it. Now I don't worry about pre-drilling this end of it, just the holes there. Did the same thing with the frame, only using 2x4s, and then use the 4x4s. Now those were treated. I can't find them anywhere untreated, so guess I just use those. But then I screwed those in and pre-drilled these holes as well. You can see underneath there. Let's see. You can kind of see how that was done. You may even be able to see the holes drilled in there. Now this bed is a 4x8 with a 2x8 rather than 2x6. Now, if you look, you'll see a cinder block under there. Now what I did, if you'll notice this when I'm working here, I'm going to put a shed here at some point, but you can see how unlevel the fall is there. And so at this point, by the time I actually built this one, I was trying to think of ways to make it a little more permanent. And so one of the ideas was to put them on cinder blocks. So I thought I would kind of do a test without making it permanent. And so what I did was frame this area underneath and brought in some of the dirt and tapped it down to make it kind of solid. I measured out and laid all the cinder blocks out. Didn't mortar anything, but. And then what I did is I filled the inside of those cinder blocks with dirt, tapped it down, so that by the time I put the frame on, it was just flat, a nice flat surface underneath. Now I did put weed control, fabric between the soil inside inside the parameter of the blocks and the bed, or the actual soil in the bed, and those mix. And just so at a later date when I scoop it out, it'll be a little bit easier to determine which is which. I use the same principle for putting them together. And I don't know if you notice here, but even at 8 inches, and you see you get your soil as it settles, you start losing it. And you can see there where I've planted stuff since, I've added to it and I brought it back up to level. And that's probably going to be, you know, how these things work, especially if you start doing like the no-till idea, which is something we'll get into later when we talk about soil, but you just add stuff on top as you go. Now if you follow the Mel Bartholomew system of square foot gardening, he likes to put lattices or something to delineate his squares. Well, I found some mason string, and I just measured out each foot and then started screwing it, tied it, ran it down tight, then I'd run across and just loop it around a couple times and then slowly run it down tight, and it would just kind of tighten it, make it really nice and tight and hold it there. And the idea is, this is not going to be, I don't want the string to be permanent, and so I figure after season you're going to have to change it anyways. But you can always use the same holes as long as you don't strip them, get too crazy with your screw gun. When it goes quicker, putting that string, let's see if I can find something. Putting that string on there goes quicker when you kind of get smarter enough to, rather than, you know, run one in, run it in, and then, you know, cut it and come over here and do the next one. I just run it in and then loop a couple times, run it down, and just go right over here, loop a couple times, run it down, like that. That way it goes a lot quicker. So that first bed, 2x6, 4x4, 2x6, and that bed, which are 2x8s, and is a 4x8, was built with the same idea. And you can see there I've got it set up on blocks and stuff on the lower end, because it's how unlevel it is. This box is the one that I built 2x12. However, the plywood in it, in fact I think I built this one, no, I built this one the same way, with just 4-foot pieces. So I actually had to trim the plywood that went in there. But what I did is I just built little runners around each side and laid the plywood down inside and nailed it in. If I would have been thinking about it when I did it, I would have made it, at least made it deeper, if not just went ahead and put it on the bottom. And then that one, that's just a little 4x1 with the 2x6s. I built a little stand for it to be on. That's the one top that I built over here. There's a couple down there. You can see those. One was over here. The other one was on just the end of that bed down there. But they work out pretty good. And then I got a handle there. Some bungee ran through it, and you can actually put that together, holds it down. I kind of thought of that when it was pretty windy and I had all that plastic on here. I thought, man, it's going to be like a kite or something with all that wind. So it seemed to work pretty good. And there you have the boxes.